Hello and welcome. Today we are learning how to play Disaster. Now this video can be good for the original Disaster game or the pocket version. They're just different sizes of cards, but they both work the same way. So this can be 2 to 6 players, and so today we're just going to look at what it looks like with 4. So you get the stack of Disaster cards, shuffle those, and then we're going to deal 7 to each player. So each player should have 7 cards. And then they should look at their cards, make sure nobody else sees them. And if they have any blue cards, say insurance on the top, those are their insurance cards. And the first thing we're going to do is create an insurance bank. So what we do is we take those insurance cards and we just slide them over. And that is our insurance bank. Now, when we play an insurance card, we'll get to that in a second, you can play that from your bank, not from your hand. So then just pick back up, so you have 7 cards in your hand. And we are ready to start the game. So usually whoever's to the left of the dealer can start. So in this case, we're going to say that Mr. Blue here dealt. So Mr. Red is going to go first. And on your turn, you have an option. You can either lay down another insurance card into your bank, save up for Doomsday, or you can attack somebody else with a disaster or other sorts of things. So Mr. Red here is going to decide he wants to play it safe. Let's take this insurance card. Just looks just like this. There's travel, there's shelter, there's food, money, and medicine. So this is travel. It's the most common in the game. And he's going to deposit that into his bank. Now, of course, the other players don't know what that is. They just know he's put something down. And then at the end of his turn, he's going to draw back up. So he has 7. And now it's Mr. Green's turn. So Mr. Green, he's a little more aggressive. So he's going to play a disaster. Disaster cards are red. They look like this. So this is a flood. This is worth 3 points. If you get to 10 points, you're out of the game. So he's going to target Mr. Red because he's been saving up for Doomsday. Good person to target. So if Mr. Red can't get rid of this card with an insurance card, he's going to be stuck with 3 points until the end of the game. But we know that he does have one of those insurance cards. So let's take a look at this again. Notice that you could either use a shelter or a travel card. We know he has a travel card. So you could use one or the other. You don't have to use both, one or the other. And so Mr. Red here is going to play his travel card. And then those just both get discarded. And then Mr. Green's got to pick back up. So he's got 7 cards. Now it's Mr. Yellow's turn. What's he going to do? Ooh, he's going to play one of the big ones. So this is worth 7 points, which gets you really close to 10. And it also costs 2 insurance cards to pay off rather than just 1. So this requires 2 shelters. Who's he going to target? Mr. Blue. So now Mr. Blue has got to have 2 shelter cards. So let's see what he's got in his bank. He's got a food, a travel, and 1 shelter. Only 1, not 2. So he can't pay this one off. So he's just going to have to hold that in front of him until the end of the game, and he is at 7 points. So now it's time for Mr. Yellow to pick back up. And now it's Mr. Blue's turn. Now Mr. Blue's going to get some revenge here. And he's going to attack Mr. Yellow with a lose job. So in order to get rid of these 3 points, Mr. Yellow's got to have some money. Well, unfortunately, Mr. Yellow does not have any money in his insurance bank. But he does have a rescue card. So yeah, rescue cards are green. They look like this. And those don't go in your bank. They can be played right out of your hand. And so Mr. Yellow is going to be playing that card out of his hand, and that gets rid of that disaster. Now they can both pick back up so that they've got 7. But what does Mr. Blue have? Mr. Blue's picked up a rescue card, and this one you play immediately. This is 15 minutes of fame. So as soon as you pick this card up, you can lay it down right away. And this subtracts 1 disaster point from your total. So he's at 7, right? Because he's got that one. But now he's only at 6. So he's doing okay. And now it's Mr. Red's turn. And he's going to play it safe. Put the insurance in his bank. Yep. And Mr. Green, after Mr. Red's picked back up, oh, he's aggressive again. He's going to give war to Mr. Yellow. And Mr. Yellow does not have any travel cards. So he's going to have to keep that one. And he's at 4 points. So we've got 6 points and 4 points so far. But it is Mr. Yellow's turn. See, look at this. Mr. Yellow had a travel card, but he hadn't put it in his bank yet. He instead chose to attack Mr. Blue. He wasn't able to get rid of that war card, and he still can't, because once it's there until the end of the game. So now he's going to pick back up, and he has picked up another peril card. This one goes into play immediately. When drawn, the player to your left must give you one of the disaster cards that they have fallen to. So the player to his left is the blue one, and the only disaster he's got is the EMP. So he's going to slide that over. That puts Mr. Yellow at over 10, right? He's at 11 now, and so he is out of the game. So now it's Mr. Blue's turn. He's going to play a nuclear strike. And so this one to pay off, and it's 7 points if you can't. To pay it off, you either need 1 shelter and 1 travel, or 2 of one of those. So either 2 shelters or 2 travels, or shelter and a travel. That's kind of what you're working with here. And he's going to play that against Mr. Red. Well, Mr. Red's been stocking up, but he's got this really exciting rescue card, Preemptive Strike. And what that does is that makes whoever played that card now have to defend it. So we know that Mr. Blue has got a food, a travel, and a shelter, so he's going to use those travels and shelters and pay that off. So he's okay. He lives to see another day. And they're both going to pick up cards. But Mr. Red has picked up Shot in the Foot. And so when this is drawn, it's the opposite of 15 minutes of fame. It actually adds a point to your total. So he was at 0. Now he's at 1. And Mr. Blue is at -1. And it's Mr. Red's turn after he picks up. He's going to, let's get some revenge. He's done stocking up. He's going to play an Earthquake against Mr. Blue. That's 5 points. So Mr. Blue's got to have travel or shelter. We know he only has a food, so he can't get rid of that. So he's going to be stuck with those 5 points, but he's really at 4. Now Mr. Green hops on here. He's playing Alien Attack. So this one, just like the EMP, you need 2 shelters. Where is he going to put that? Oh no, against Mr. Blue. Mr. Blue does not have the points for that, and he's over 10, and he's out of the game. So Mr. Green has picked up a card. Oh, and it's another rescue card. It's Vaccinated. So this card isn't one of those 4 that you play immediately. So all of the other rescues and peril cards can stay in your hand, and you can play them as you want to. But just these 4, we've seen them now. The 15 Minutes of Fame, the What Goes Around Comes Around, Shot in the Foot, and Vaccinated, they say play immediately. So this prevents him from being able to be attacked with a pandemic. So that's pretty useful. So he's going to pick up again. And it's Mr. Red's turn. Now this is a different kind of peril card. This one you play against someone rather than it happening to you. So this is going to force Mr. Green to get rid of all of his money. So he's going to play that against Mr. Green. And Mr. Green had some money in his bank and in his hand. And those both get discarded. He can pick back up, so he's still got 7 points, or 7 cards in his hand. Now Mr. Green is going to play this peril card. This is another one that can be played out of your hand. This is Glutton for Punishment. So when this is played, the opponent has to pay double their insurance. So this one could either be money or travel. So Mr. Red could pay either 2 money or 2 travel, or he could pay 1 of each, or else he's stuck with those 3 points. So what's he going to do? Well, we know he has money, and he had travel from the beginning, so he's going to pay that off. And then everyone's going to pick back up. Now Mr. Red's got another peril card. This is the Straw That Broke the Camel's Back. So when this is played, it adds a point to the total. So if Mr. Green can't get rid of this card, it's going to be worth 4 points. So let's see, does he have any money? Well, we know he doesn't have any money, right? Because we made him get rid of it all last time. So he's stuck with those 4 points. So Mr. Green is going to play the Zombie Apocalypse, which you'd either need 2 medicine, 2 shelter, or 1 of each. That's 7 points. And does Mr. Red have it? No, he does not. But he's got a rescue card. So this is one that can be played right out of your hand. And that thwarts the Zombie Apocalypse. So he's safe. So everybody draws back up. Mr. Red, he's got quite the plan here. So this is a peril card. It's called Insult to Injury. And this allows you to play 2 disasters at the same time. So he's going to play both the Meteor Strike and the Military Coup. And so he plays that against Mr. Green. If Mr. Green can't get rid of it, he's done for. Well, he's only got one travel, so he can get rid of one of those, but he's got to keep the other one. So he's now at 7 points. So he's not doing well. Mr. Red's at 1. So we pick back up to 7. And that was a good move, Mr. Green. Mr. Green put something in his insurance bank. Picks up a card, and Mr. Red's going to attack him with a hurricane. Is this enough to do him in? It is. He's only got a medicine. And so Mr. Green is out of the game. And so that is just a quick overview of how disaster works. There's lots of combinations you can do. The important thing to remember is as you deal them out, if you get what goes around comes around or shot in the foot, these are not really useful cards right at the beginning of the game. Just throw those back in and grab 2 new cards. If you get 15 minutes of fame or if you get vaccinated, those are really exciting cards to have at the beginning because it sets you off really well. And so, yeah, some games go quicker, some games go slower, but that's kind of how the dynamics work.